I'm so happy you're here today for another deep dive into the teachings of A Course in Miracles. We've reached Chapter 16, Section 5, and we're going to explore something that touches the very core of why we suffer, why we seek, and why peace seems so elusive even when we've tried everything to find it. The title of this section is The Choice for Completion. And before you think this is going to be another abstract spiritual concept, let me tell you what this is really about. This is about that persistent feeling that something is missing, that nagging sense that you're not quite whole, not quite enough, not quite there yet. It's about waking up in the morning with a subtle anxiety that something needs to be fixed, found, or achieved before you can finally relax. It's about looking at your life and wondering why, despite everything you've accomplished or acquired, there's still that empty space inside. We all know this feeling intimately. We've tried to fill it with relationships, thinking that the right person would make us complete. We've pursued achievements, believing that the next goal would finally prove our worth. We've accumulated possessions, experiences, knowledge, always searching for that missing piece that will make us whole. And yet, no matter what we find, the incompleteness returns. Sometimes within hours, sometimes within days, but it always returns. The Course has something radical to say about this, and it's not what most spiritual teachings tell us. It's not about finding your other half. It's not about becoming complete through spiritual practice. It's not about achieving enlightenment so you can finally be whole. It's about recognizing that you've been making a choice for incompleteness without even realizing it. And that choice has been protecting something the ego desperately wants to keep. This section reveals the mechanics of how we maintain our sense of incompleteness, why we do it, and what we're actually afraid of when we consider choosing completion instead. Because here's the thing most people don't want to hear. We're not incomplete because something is missing. We're incomplete because we're choosing to see ourselves that way. And we're choosing it for a reason. That reason isn't obvious. The ego has hidden it well. It's wrapped it in beautiful packages labeled self-improvement, spiritual growth, finding your purpose, and meeting your soulmate. It's convinced us that seeking completion is noble, healthy, and necessary. But the Course is about to show us that this entire framework is upside down. What if you're already complete? What if nothing is missing and nothing ever was? What if the search itself is the problem, not the solution? These aren't rhetorical questions designed to make you feel good. They're pointing to something the Course considers fundamental. You are choosing between two thought systems every moment, and one of them depends entirely on you believing you're incomplete. Today we're going to look at what completion actually means, not as a future achievement, but as a present reality. We're going to examine the mechanics of how we choose between the ego's version of wholeness and the Holy Spirit's recognition of what's already true. And we're going to explore what happens when we stop seeking and start accepting what has always been here. This isn't comfortable material. The ego will resist it because completion is the end of the ego. But if you've been feeling exhausted by the endless seeking, if you're tired of the perpetual sense that something is wrong or missing, if you're ready to consider that there might be a completely different way of seeing yourself and your life, then you're in the right place. Let's start with something you already know, but might not have noticed. Every single day, you wake up with a to-do list, not just the practical one about errands and work tasks, but the invisible list, the one that says, fix this about yourself, improve that relationship, Achieve this goal. Become more of that quality you think you lack. This list never ends because it's not really about tasks. It's about the fundamental belief that you, as you are right now, are not enough. The Course calls this incompleteness, and it's the foundation of the entire ego thought system. Think about it. When was the last time you felt completely satisfied with yourself exactly as you are? Not because you achieved something or received validation, but simply because you exist. For most of us, that moment is hard to remember or has never happened. And that's not an accident. The ego has convinced you that incompleteness is reality. It says, "Of course you're not complete. Look at all the things you don't have, all the qualities you haven't developed, all the experiences you haven't had yet. Incompleteness is just being realistic." And this sounds so reasonable that we build our entire lives around it. We construct elaborate plans to become complete. We seek relationships to fill the gaps. We pursue achievements to prove our worth. We accumulate possessions to demonstrate we've made it. But here's what the Course reveals. Incompleteness isn't a fact about you. It's a choice you're making. And you're making it because the ego needs you to believe you're incomplete in order to survive. Let me explain why. If you're incomplete, you need to seek. If you need to seek, you need the ego to guide your seeking. If the ego is guiding you, it gets to define what you're looking for and whether you found it. This keeps you in a perpetual cycle of searching and never quite arriving. And the ego calls this growth, progress, the journey. It makes incompleteness sound spiritual. Now contrast this with what the Course means by completion. Completion isn't something you achieve or find. It's what you are. It's the truth about you that exists before and beyond all the stories of lack. You were created complete by God. Not mostly complete with a few things to work on. Not potentially complete if you do the right practices. Complete, whole, lacking nothing. This isn't positive thinking or affirmation. This is a statement about reality. The problem is, you can't see this completion while you're looking through the ego's lens. The ego has trained you to look for what's wrong, what's missing, what needs improvement. It's like wearing glasses that only show you defects. You could be standing in front of a masterpiece, but all you'd see is the flaws. The substitute the ego offers for true completion is what the Course calls special relationships and special accomplishments. These are the things that temporarily make you feel whole. When you fall in love, you feel complete for a while. When you achieve a goal, you feel worthy until the feeling fades. When someone validates you, you feel enough until you need more validation. The ego says, "See, you can be complete. You just need to keep finding the right externals." But notice, what's happening? The ego is offering you completion as something outside yourself that you must constantly pursue. It's like offering a hungry person a picture of food. It looks like nourishment, but it can never actually satisfy. True completion, as the Course teaches, isn't found. It's recognized. It's already here, already true, already whole. Your only job is to stop choosing to see incompleteness instead. Now that we understand what completion really is, let's talk about the choice itself. Because here's what's tricky. You don't feel like you're choosing incompleteness. It feels like incompleteness is just what's true about you. You look at your life, you see what's missing, and that seems like objective reality. But the Course is telling us something radical. What you see is always the result of a choice you've already made. This is how it works. Every moment, you're choosing between two interpreters of your experience. The ego says, "Look at what you lack. Look at what went wrong. Look at what you need to fix." The Holy Spirit says, "You are whole. Nothing real is missing. Peace is available now." These aren't just different perspectives. They're completely different worlds, and you're choosing which one you're going to live in. The problem is, we've practiced choosing the ego for so long that it feels automatic. You don't wake up and consciously decide, "Today I'm going to see myself as incomplete and suffering." It just happens. Someone criticizes you, and instantly you feel diminished. A relationship ends, and immediately you feel like something essential has been taken from you. You scroll through social media, and automatically you compare and find yourself lacking. These reactions feel like they're happening to you, but they're actually choices you're making in each moment. Let me give you a concrete example. Imagine someone you care about doesn't respond to your message. What happens next? The ego immediately creates a story. "They're ignoring me. I did something wrong. They don't value me. I'm not important enough." And then comes the feeling of incompleteness. Something is wrong. Something needs to be fixed. You need them to respond so you can feel okay again. You've just chosen to make your wholeness dependent on their behavior. But here's the alternative. The same situation, different choice. You notice the ego's story arising. "They're ignoring me. I'm not valued." And instead of believing it, you recognize it as the ego, trying to convince you you're incomplete. You choose the Holy Spirit's interpretation. "My worth doesn't depend on their response. I am complete whether they answer or not. Maybe they're busy, maybe they're struggling with something. Either way, I remain whole." This is the choice for completion. The Course teaches that special relationships are one of the ego's primary tools for maintaining your belief in incompleteness. Think about how relationships usually work. We believe someone else has something we need. They have the love we're missing, the validation we crave, the companionship that will finally make us whole. So we enter the relationship from a place of lack, trying to get what we think we don't have. And when they can't give it, because no one can give you completion, we feel betrayed, abandoned, incomplete again. This is the ego's perfect trap. It sends you seeking completion in another person, guarantees you won't find it there, and then uses your disappointment as proof that you're still incomplete. And what does it suggest? Find a better person. Try harder. Fix yourself so you're more lovable. The seeking continues, and the ego remains in control. But what if you entered relationships from completion instead of lack? What if you didn't need anything from the other person to be whole? This doesn't mean you don't care or don't want connection. It means you're not using them to fill a hole that doesn't actually exist. This transforms everything. The choice we're talking about isn't a one-time decision. It's moment by moment. Every time you feel lack, you have a choice. Believe the ego and try to fill it, or recognize completion and rest there. Every time you feel anxious about the future, you have a choice. Believe you need to secure something to be safe, or recognize you're already safe in truth. Every time you judge yourself, you have a choice. Believe the judgment and feel diminished, or recognize your inherent worth. This is the mechanics of the choice, and it's available in every single moment. So what actually happens when you choose completion? Does everything in your life suddenly become perfect? Do all your problems disappear? Not exactly. But something fundamental shifts, and once you experience this shift, you'll understand why the Course says this choice can save you thousands of years. The first thing that changes is your relationship with peace. When you're living from incompleteness, peace is always conditional. I'll be at peace when I get that job. I'll be at peace when they apologize. I'll be at peace when I fix this problem. Peace is always somewhere else, always in the future, always dependent on circumstances changing. But when you choose completion, peace becomes your starting point, not your destination. You're not trying to become peaceful. You're recognizing the peace that's already here, underneath all the ego's drama. This doesn't mean you stop having preferences or taking action. It means your action comes from wholeness instead of desperation. You still work toward goals, but you're not trying to prove your worth through achievement. You still desire connection, but you're not trying to extract completion from another person. The difference is subtle but profound. You're extending what you already are rather than seeking what you think you lack. Let's talk about what happens to relationships when you make this choice. Special relationships, as we discussed, are based on the belief that someone else has what you need to be complete. They're transactions. I'll give you this if you give me that. And underneath every special relationship is fear. Fear that the other person will leave, change, or fail to provide what you need. This fear creates control, manipulation, and constant anxiety. When you choose completion, special relationships can transform into what the Course calls holy relationships. A holy relationship isn't about two incomplete people trying to complete each other. It's about two whole people recognizing wholeness in each other. There's no need to control because you're not dependent. There's no need to manipulate because you're not trying to get anything. There's no fear of loss because your completion doesn't depend on them staying or behaving a certain way. This might sound cold or detached, but it's actually the opposite. When you're not using someone to fill your emptiness, you can actually see them. You can love them for who they are, not for what they can do for you. You can appreciate their presence without clinging to it. You can support their growth without feeling threatened by it. This is what real love looks like, and it only becomes possible when you stop seeking completion and start living from it. Another profound effect is the end of seeking itself. Think about how much energy you spend searching for the right relationship, the right career, the right home, the right experience, the right version of yourself. Seeking probably been your primary mode of existence for as long as you can remember. But when you choose completion, seeking stops. Not because you found what you were looking for, but because you realized there was never anything to find. You were always whole. You were always enough. You were always home. This doesn't mean you become passive or stop growing, but the quality of your movement through life changes completely. You're no longer running from incompleteness. You're extending from wholeness. You create, connect, and contribute not to become complete, but because you are complete. This is what the Course means by extension, giving from fullness rather than seeking from emptiness. Living from completion also changes how you experience problems. When you believe you're incomplete, every problem confirms it. Something's wrong, and I need to fix it to be okay. But when you've chosen completion, problems become simply situations to address, not evidence of your fundamental inadequacy. Your worth isn't on the line every time something goes wrong. You handle what needs handling, but your peace isn't held hostage by outcomes. This is the shift the Course is offering. From seeking to extending, from lack to wholeness, from fear to peace. And it's available right now, in this moment, through a simple choice. We've covered a lot today, and if you're feeling challenged by this material, that's completely normal. The idea that you're already complete contradicts everything the ego has taught you. It goes against the entire structure of how you've been living. And that's exactly why it's so powerful. Remember, this isn't about achieving completion someday. It's about recognizing what's already true right now. You don't need to become worthy. You don't need to find your missing piece. You don't need to wait until you're more healed, more spiritual, or more together. The choice for completion is available in this moment, and in every moment that follows. Start noticing when incompleteness thoughts arise. When you feel like something's wrong with you, when you're comparing yourself to others, when you're anxious about securing something in the future, these are all signs you've chosen incompleteness. And in that moment, you can choose again. You can recognize, this is the ego's story. The truth is, I'm already whole. This is practical work. This is how the Course transforms your daily experience. One choice at a time, one moment at a time, until living from completion becomes more natural than living from lack. Thank you so much for being here today and for your willingness to consider these ideas. If this video brought clarity or insight, I'd really appreciate it if you'd give it a like and share it with someone who might benefit from hearing this message. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel so you can continue this journey through A Course in Miracles with us. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. How does this idea of choosing completion land for you? What comes up when you consider that you might already be whole? Share your reflections. I read every comment, and your insights often help others who are studying the Course. Until next time, remember, you are complete. You always have been. The only question is whether you're willing to choose to see it. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next video.